cop mocked her until she said, "I'm the judge." A cop saw a black woman in a Mercedes at a gas station and thought he could scare her for money. What he didn't know, she was a Supreme Court judge. What happened next made headlines that made every officer in that state think twice. Like, share, and subscribe, because this is one story you'll never forget. It was around 9:45 p.m. on a chilly Friday evening in Atlanta. The streets were nearly empty, save for a few passing cars and the dull hum of neon lights from a nearby gas station. Officer Tyler Brooks sat slouched in his patrol car with his partner, Officer Dan, sipping burnt coffee and complaining about the boredom of night shifts. Then, headlights swept across the station lot as a sleek black Mercedes S-Class rolled in quietly and pulled up beside pump number 4. Tyler perked up instantly, eyes narrowing. "Look at that S-Class, and there's a black woman driving it, at this hour. Probably some scam artist or hustler." His voice dripped with prejudice. Dan didn't reply. He'd heard Tyler say things like this before, and it always made him uncomfortable. Tyler opened the door and stood up, brushing off his uniform. "Let's see what she's really up to," he muttered, strapping on his flashlight and walking toward the car like a predator approaching prey. But what Tyler didn't know was that the woman inside the Mercedes was no ordinary citizen. She was Justice Helena Miles, a sitting judge on the United States Supreme Court, and she was about to turn this quiet gas station into the center of a national firestorm. Justice Helena Miles had just landed back in Atlanta after delivering a keynote address at a federal justice summit in D.C. Her driver had taken her home from the airport, but she preferred driving herself for short errands. It helped her clear her mind. That night, she had stopped at the gas station to refill her tank before heading home. Dressed in a tailored navy suit, simple pearls, and low heels, she was every bit the image of calm authority. As she stood at the pump, inserting her credit card, she saw Officer Tyler approaching out of the corner of her eye. "Evening, ma'am," he said, casually tapping his flashlight against his leg. "Is this your vehicle?" She raised an eyebrow. "It is. Is there a problem, officer? Mind showing me your license and registration? You seemed a little nervous pulling in." "Routine check." Her posture remained calm, but her eyes narrowed slightly. "Did I violate any traffic laws?" "We've had reports of suspicious activity in the area," he said vaguely. "Just doing my job." She handed over her ID without flinching. "Helena Miles, what do you do for a living?" he asked, almost condescendingly. "Law," she replied flatly. He smirked. "Must be some kind of law to drive this kind of car." Then, without warning, he said, "Step away from the vehicle." That was the moment the air changed. "Officer," she said slowly, "I would strongly advise you to stop right there before you make a mistake that will change your life." But Tyler, puffed up on ego and ignorance, didn't listen. Instead, he reached for his radio, ready to escalate a non-incident into something far worse. Helena didn't raise her voice. She didn't flinch. She simply pulled out her phone and began recording. "This is Justice Helena Miles of the United States Supreme Court," she said clearly, her voice sharp as a gavel. "I am currently being harassed by Officer Tyler Brooks of the County Sheriff's Department without probable cause. I have provided valid ID. I am not under arrest. I am being profiled." Tyler froze, caught between disbelief and panic. "Wait, Supreme Court," he stammered. "Justice Miles." She looked directly at him. "Yes, and you just made a grave mistake." His face strained of color. His badge suddenly felt heavier on his chest. Dan, who had been watching nervously, sprinted over. "Tyler, back off. Dude, she's real. I just realized that's the judge from the state legal summit. You remember that flyer you threw in the trash?" Tyler's arrogance turned to desperation. "Ma'am, I mean, Your Honor, I didn't know. I was just trying to intimidate a black woman at a gas station for no reason, hoping she'd be scared enough to give you cash or beg to be let go," she replied. Her calmness was terrifying. "Say your name for the camera," she said, holding the phone toward him. He hesitated. "Say your name." "Officer Tyler Brooks. And what were you attempting to do?" Silence. The only sound was the gas pump finishing its fill. Helena turned the phone back toward herself. "This is what profiling looks like in America in 2025. Even a Supreme Court justice isn't safe." Then she turned off the recording and got into her Mercedes, leaving him frozen in place as she drove away without another word. The video exploded online within hours. By the next morning, hashtags like #JusticeMiles, #Black while driving, and #gas station profiling were trending across every major platform. News anchors replayed the video on a loop. Civil rights leaders spoke out. Ordinary people were outraged, inspired by how calmly and powerfully Justice Miles had responded. The county sheriff's department scrambled to control the damage. Within 24 hours, Officer Tyler Brooks was suspended without pay pending a full internal affairs investigation. Public trust in the department, already shaky, took a massive hit. Meanwhile, legal organizations nationwide praised Justice Miles for not only defending herself but doing so without escalating the situation. 2 days later, she appeared at a press conference. "I'm not the first black person to be profiled, but I might be the first Supreme Court justice this has happened to, and it proves no one is immune," she said. "We must hold law enforcement accountable not just for their actions but their assumptions. Her speech went viral. Within a week, she introduced a federal recommendation to Congress calling for mandatory body cams, national de-escalation training, and bias screening for new recruits, and this time, lawmakers listened. Her testimony, her poise, and the raw footage ignited real momentum for reform. Tyler Brooks never wore a badge again. He became a cautionary tale at every police academy training in the state. Months passed, but the ripple effects of that night didn't fade. At the same sheriff's department where Tyler once worked, new recruits gathered for training. A commanding officer stood at the front of the room. "Before we begin," he said, "I want you to watch this clip, and remember it could have been you." The screen lit up with Justice Miles' calm voice saying, "Say your name." That single line had become iconic in classrooms, courtrooms, even on late-night television. Police departments across multiple states updated their policy handbooks to include the Miles Protocol, a new standard for civilian engagement that emphasized respect, awareness, and transparency. Justice Helena Miles didn't stop there. She launched a nonprofit to provide legal resources for victims of profiling. She also published a best-selling memoir titled While Refueling Justice in Unexpected Places, detailing not just the gas station incident, but the lifelong burden of being a black woman in power, constantly underestimated. She donated all proceeds to legal aid foundations and youth leadership programs. As for the gas station itself, Pump 4 was never the same. The owner installed security cameras, upgraded lighting, and put up a plaque that read, "On this spot, justice didn't wait for a courtroom." Every driver who passed by it remembered her name, and every officer who saw that plaque remembered what can happen when you mistake power for weakness just because of the color of someone's skin. Justice had never looked so calm, or so powerful. He thought she'd be scared. He thought he could intimidate her. But she was a Supreme Court justice, and she turned his abuse of power into a national reckoning. Share this video if you believe real justice still matters, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories that make you think, feel, and act.